Okay, once again for reference, let's have a look at that. There, it's fairly slow. Let's say you wanted to make it just a bit slower than that. You would want to increase this some more. Not a problem. You can do that. However, let's say we put in about 100,000, but suddenly past a certain point, it doesn't seem to be increasing the speed any longer. So what's the problem is we've gone over here. Well, to make a long story short, the max limit would be 65535, I believe. And then once you go over that, it's not going to give you an error or anything, but it doesn't go any faster than that. You can put 200,000 in there, you're still going to get 65535 as your max value. How do you get slower than that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to copy our entire delay loop here. Okay, and then inside our delay loop, I'm going to go tab one time and paste. Okay, and I'll just inset everything for clarity. Of course, we're reusing some variables here. We want to rename them. Instead of CX, I'm going to go to DX here. And here, DX, we have two loops with the same name. That will cause a conflict. So we will call this our inner loop. Inner loop. Copy that right over this one. There. Okay, so now we have two loops going on. Now this is astronomically slow. In fact, it would probably be so slow you would not see any movement. I'm going to bring this back down to say 15,000 and maybe 100 here. And we'll save that, see what happens. Not bad. Okay. So that's a reasonable speed. Still a little speedy, depending on what kind of game you're writing. Let's bring that down to 200. Now, of course, all of this will be different from with a faster processor, slower processor. You can't just time this out and then necessarily send it to your friends to view or something. You deal with all that a little differently. But just for simplicity's sake, for learning, we're just kind of penciling something in there real quick. Adjusting the timing beyond that is somewhat more complex, but this gets our foot in the door. Okay, there. That's pretty good speed. Okay, so I'm sure you may remember the snake game, where everywhere you go, you leave a trail. You can kind of get an idea of how the programmer came up with that idea. Now he got this far and couldn't figure out how to make just a dot, So I was like, I'll just make a game where you leave trails everywhere you go. And yeah, Snake was born. So we want to get rid of the trails if we can next, I guess. So let's see. We'll call that nested loop here, I think. Let me just, we're all saved. Save as up in lessons. I did a dry run apparently and already did nested loop. But for your benefit, 08 nested loop, put it right in there. Yeah, overwrite that. There you go. Okay. Okay, so nested loop should be saved. There. Set duration. Set the timing here. Yeah. Okay. Check to see if value is reached. If yes, bail. There. save nested loop. Sorry. Edit set read only. Read only. There. So now you can't edit it. You can only select all, copy it over to test. Up here. Control A, Control V. And I'm going to save test. Close that. Okay, good. Alright, so just one more looky here. What's going on? We're leaving trails. You can see how Snake, you remember that game where everywhere you go you leave a trail and you try and box in your opponent? You can see how I came up with the idea for that. Programmer got up to this point. I was like, oh man, I can't figure out how to just make a pixel. Well, maybe make a game out of this. And Snake was born. There you go. But we want to see if we can make the trails go away. The way you would do that, we want to kind of erase what's already been drawn there. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to change this to the background color. And then down here after the exit animation, compare exit animation, just paste it back in. Okay, so now that's the character color. But this is the background color. Background color, and we're making a mask essentially. Let me just save that real quick, see what happens. There. So the trails are being erased because we are so the very, very first pixel is not drawn. That's an unfortunate drawback of this. I mean, it's, yeah, we erase position 1. We start at 0 and then draw the background color so it never gets seen. And then we increment, see, and then we draw our first character. So our first character technically comes in at 1 instead of at 0 in this scenario, you know. That's a little drawback. If you really, really had to have it, there's ways to get around that too. You can draw it up there before the loop, you know. But there, that is your basic animation, you know. Let me just bring it up again here. Yeah. Now, normally, I don't know, if you program games in JavaScript or whatever, you know, you clear the entire screen and then draw your character. This is just kind of a down and dirty way to get something happening because there's not a simple clear screen command at this level. It's kind of complex, you know, yeah, trying to do that ends up in some choppiness, you know, in the animation, flickering, right? And then there's the ways around that to make a frame buffer and all that, a little more complicated than this level of the tutorial. But there, we've got our very rudimentary animation going now. Animated pixel.